many of you have listened to the Head, Heart, and Boots podcast? I can't tell you that reaction, how much that means to us.
Welcome back to the Head, Heart, and Boots podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Brennan. Join us as we wrestle with what it takes to transform ourselves and the businesses we lead. This new camera angle makes my arms look smaller than yours.
I'm noticing that, and I really appreciate it. I thought you did that on purpose.
No, I didn't, and I am not happy with it. Well, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us and taking time. Lane, you just came out of the woods, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. Back in civilization. So it's good. Thanks for having me.
I think the last time we talked to you, you were talking about bears. So I think you still had camo on when we were actually.
Yeah, I did.
Which is pretty awesome.
So it was probably good that we switched days.
That was probably a good day for smell-o-vision not quite coming to fruition just yet, right? We just need some.
I'd agree. I definitely agree.
Three-dimensional on that. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. Hey, just kind of get us started. Why don't we do this? Why don't we give everybody a 30-second pitch on who each one of you are, the companies that you're representing, and then we'll get into where we're headed, because I think it's going to be a really fun conversation around our tech staff. So, Andreas, you want to get us started, my friend?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here today. So, who am I? Andreas, out of Germany. What's my story? I basically joined my family business 12 years ago as a project manager in recon and restoration jobs. And I was a little bit let down by the analog nature of all of that. And at that time, already a big iPad fan. So I always carried my iPad with me on my job sites. That was V1. That was not common at that time. And I really wanted to find a better way of kind of putting it all down, right? So I played around with GoPros and whatnot, but then I started working with Magic Plan as a user. And now, long story short, now I'm here as the CEO of Magic Plan for the last 8 years. Bought the company out of my kind of like own conviction that this is the product that the industry needs. And that's what I'm doing to this day.
Nice. Right on. You know what? I totally spaced it in our previous conversations that you grew up in the family business too. So both our guests are veteran restorers. So that'll be rad, man. I totally forgot about that, Andreas. Lane, for the two people that haven't heard anything about Clean Claims yet, you want to do a quick introduction of yourself, my friend?
Yeah. So, thanks for having me. So I've been in construction, just my background, I've been in construction my whole life. I grew up cleaning up job sites from the time I was 8 years old. So that's my world. So the fact that I own a software company is kind of weird now, but it was built out of necessity. So I built 4 of my own restoration companies, sold those as well, and built the software along the way to kind of help, for documentation and different things, just simplifying things. So the whole point was creating systems and places to where, it makes it easy for the technician. The critical data is making it easy for the technicians in the field to be able to document. And it all starts with that. So if you can make it to where they get the data they need, then that's what's crucial and trickles down to all the way to getting paid, eliminating all those problems. So that's kind of where it stemmed from, is living in that construction world and restoration to know what we need. So yeah,
it's funny because I know everybody, we're always like super guarded, like we're not going to do like an hour long pitch on a product. You guys, it's so interesting, this kind of merge. And the reason we were so excited to get you guys on the show, one is your two products working together is creating a pretty magical product. But more importantly, what we want to talk about is you guys, and especially obviously on the backbone of Clean Claims, there's just this really tech-facing prioritization in terms of what you guys are doing. And so as we were kind of like coming up with these conversations leading up to this, we're like, man, we should get into that vein, because I think that's the thing we miss, is that we create all these software solutions about getting more data, being able to track performance and do these things, which are great. But then we miss the end user, which is actually not the leadership team. If we really think about it, it's actually our tech staff, and they kind of get left in the cold. It feels like, when it comes time to prioritize and pick these solutions. And so anyways, that was a long ways around to say, we just kind of want to hang in that pocket and talk about what you guys have done to create a more effective performance. And I think people get a good picture of how the software can support that, but more importantly, kind of a mind shift that probably all of us can make as we prioritize the end user, i.e. our team members, maybe over some of these other priorities. So anyways, that was a long workup, but I think we know where we're going next.
I think we got a starting point.
All right. Well, let's do this, you guys. Why don't we just kind of set the stage first with what's happening between these two products, and then I think that'll make a lot more sense while we're going to be talking about our tech staff. Andres, do you want to just kind of give us that first overview of what it is that you guys are integrating right now, and then Lane, why don't you play cleanup on that and just kind of seal the deal for us?
Yeah.
Sure. So what are we doing? Basically, we are a mobile sketching and field documentation solution. And one of my core principles that I act upon is like, I want to plan ahead, right? And it's in the word, I need a plan. Like I need a layout of the property, the site, or whatever I'm dealing with, because that tells me the story. So that has been my focus on, okay, give me the square footage, but give me also what rooms are in there, what's kind of like the DNA or corpse of the property. And so we have that field sketching element that we are doing. And we try to make that as easy as possible, and basically using your mobile phone. And that was also kind of like what brought me to actually pulling the trigger and saying, yes, I want to do this, because handing out the pure product to my project managers 12 years ago, I basically looked back after a year and they started picking it up themselves and used it for every project. And that kind of ease of use is what we try to preserve to this day. And then basically handing over that documentation, that field sketch to Clean Claims, to Lane, so that he can really go into detail of all the different data sets that you need for a restoration project.
Yeah, man.
So just to add to that, like the key to this that people need to know, and this is me putting my restore hat on, right? Speaking for the restoration company, I'm not as a software guy. I hate that everybody says they integrate, that everybody says that you use this, use that. You have 10 different logins, you have 10 different like double, triple, quadruple entries, the nightmare that never ends, right? And so the biggest thing is about our integration is, I mean, in our system is, you know, a lot of people know and maybe that don't is, I mean, I trained 68 technicians on a job in 10 minutes how to use the program. No BS. That's not to like hype up my product and say that's the whole point of it. It's supposed to be simple, right? But with that, my product without these true integrations isn't valuable to me. Like you have to have an integration. And so what we've done with Andreas in the Magic Plan is that it feels like you're in one system. Like even though you're going back and forth, the technician doesn't know that. Like, I mean, it literally is so smooth and easy to capture the data. And we have it to where it pushes and pulls that data back and forth to eliminate the double login and then the double entry. So the key to the integration, especially with us, is now we get a sketch tool that's right from your phone and it's instant, which that's the key that's huge for me. That's what I was teasing you guys, I think, last time about why I wanted to start another restoration company. Is I'm like, if I don't have to wait 24 hours and I have to go back out the next day to start, that's what's huge. And that's what like we're really excited and that you guys were having this podcast us, because that's what we're going to market, is that the convenience of it. There's nothing really that convenient in the industry. And together we're providing this insane convenience and speed, you know, and it's all live data. You can share that data with the carrier, the agent, the adjuster. I mean, you're allowing it to create total transparency where that's never existed. So that's like one of the huge things I just want to touch on for like restorers listening, is that that's what we're trying to provide. It's not an add-on or another software. This industry in the last 3 to 4 years has just been an insane amount of like, here, eat this software, have that one, like nonstop. And it's like, we're trying to make it to where it's not that way. It's very, very simple. It's easy. And it's a one login use. You know what I mean? So that's what I would add to that.
It's kind of interesting because I think one of the things that Chris and I have been having a lot of conversations with folks recently has been around closing and conversion rates. And, you know, one of the things that we've just seen kind of come true over and over again is that one of the ways that teams can secure a higher conversion rate, meaning from EMS to, let's say, a repair service opportunity, is how quickly do we get on site and begin gathering the information that will create that scope negotiation and get that process started. Because we have this thing we reference as the silent phase, that handoff time where there's, the restoration company's negotiating on the client's behalf to secure that scope approval, but they don't really know what's going on. And after 5 days, let's say, of just crazy activity on the EMS side, it feels weird then for them to go into this holding pattern, right? Where we secure funds and secure scope. But anyways, this is one of those things we push, is like, how quickly can we gather information and get that really competently handed off from our EMS team into our recon team to create that kind of consistency, obviously, but to shrink those time frames. And I was watching you demoed this product, I think at Large Loss Mastery was the last time we saw it. And literally, you guys, as fast as you could walk the phone in a circle, essentially in the room, it was capturing the measuring data and creating the floor plan, which ultimately then can become the basis for that recon scope. I mean, if you guys want to elaborate on that a little bit, but that just kind of like blew my doors off. And that's what got me hyped was I don't have to send in now another person. My staff that's already on site and their normal protocol can gather what I need as a recon team and begin that process from the very beginning with this product, which to me, that's creating wins. And again, it's in the hands of the tech. This doesn't require a project manager to go out scan. I'm not carrying a $5,000 camera, right? So anyways, I don't know if you guys want to kind of like unpack that a little bit, but what are you guys seeing from that in terms of users?
Maybe I go first again, because that kind of like we kick it off, and then the key element to me always was and always is that the user is in full control, right? And when are you in control? When you have your results instantly and you can kind of like check mark them off. And that is all that we care about is, okay, I am on site, I observe the scene or whatnot. And once I leave the site, I want to have the peace of mind that I've done everything and I've closed everything. And I know that if I see the result instantly while I'm still there, right? I can do that, and I can say, okay, that actually captures the picture that I had in my head while walking through here. And if I drive off, I can hand it off, I can pass it to the back office, to whatnot, but I don't need to remember anything, and I most hopefully don't need to go back because I forgot anything. That is really one of the key elements why we want what we want to achieve, put the user in control and make it transparent to them if they've basically done their job.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, the key to add to that too is just the simplicity. This is what I love about Andreas and like Magic Plan and us is it's all about keeping it simple, right? Like what you guys were bringing up in the beginning, like all these CEOs want all these things, they want to see all this stuff, but it's like you got to get down to the heart of like where are you getting that data? If you can't get the data correctly, right? And then Andreas's point, like knowing that you have it. So when you combine Magic Plan sketching into clean claims process enforcement, to where in our system, for people that don't know, you can require, everything from before pictures, videos, moisture readings, whatever it is, and you can't move on. So we're adding that sketch tool into that to where now they don't have a choice. You're getting perfection every time, but without micromanaging or like just yelling down their throats about you need to do this, you need to do that. It's built to where you can't move on to the next step till you do it. So tying in Magic Plan into, making sure that we're getting our daily photos and moisture readings and thermal imagings and all that. Now we're tying in that sketch to where now you have to go through and do that scan. And with one click of a button, it opens up Magic Plan. You do the scan. And the other fun thing we've been doing with Magic Plan's team is our remote monitoring piece. So when you set up the remote monitoring, when you scan that room, and Andreas, you correct me if I'm wrong, like it'll pick up the sensors as well. So you want to talk about instant moisture mapping. That'll probably be like in phase 2 that we're working on, but it'll literally be if you have the remote sensors set up, when you scan that room and you hit done, it'll be instantly moisture map. You don't even have to. So, you want to talk about speed and efficiency, and then I can share that data live with anybody I want. The client, if the adjuster wants to know about it, here you go. So it's eliminating that he said, she said argument that everybody wants to go. I was ready to leave restoration a couple of years into it because I was just like, oh my gosh, if I have to go one more day arguing to get paid for what I did, even if I have the documentation, So this eliminates at the end of the job, if it took 5 days and then sending it and then starting the debate, now it's like, well, let's just share the sketch and all the information right now as it's happening, and they can see it live as it's going on. And now everybody involved is all on the same page. And it's this. There's no need to argue anymore.
So okay. So I want to poke at that a little bit. I want to get your perspective on this because I've heard you make that comment before, and it sounds rad on paper. And we know that like in recent experience, I think there's an absolute amp on frustration around negotiations and getting a claim closed. So I just want to hear very specifically from you, Lane, like what is it? Because this is your own experience. Like this isn't just you pitching product, but this is the use of you internally. And your prospects and your current users right now are talking about it as well. What is it? What specifically is happening that's creating that reduction in friction in the approval process? Because I mean, a lot of different ways we're providing documentation, and it doesn't seem to be the silver bullet to make it a lot easier to close a claim out. So what is it that's happening that you're seeing?
Yeah. What do adjusters like? What are these auditors of these claims like about this?
So I would say, again, this is me just putting my restore hat back on, right, from my experience, and then I can add in like clients' experiences too. But the main thing is every software program out there that's been built for their store was either built by a software company that thinks that we know what we need, or it was by a carrier that's saying this is what we need, but it's not realistic in the field. That's just my opinion, right, from my experience, okay? So the difference is like in any other program that you use, you can edit and manipulate the data whenever you want. So every time I turn in a claim, and no matter how much documentation I have, I can debate that all day long, because in certain systems, I can change the dates, the times, the readings, so it leaves everything up for debate. There's nothing you can really trust on, did you really do it or did you not, right? Where in our system, it's the first of its kind to where you can't edit and manipulate the data. It is what it is, And so that's what makes it huge. But then again, it's simplifying it, right? That's not rocket science or anything. It's just, and then giving the data now in the moment. Why wait till the end of the job to start the going back and forth? If an adjuster gets assigned right on site, I can send him a link to this job and he can see exactly what we're doing live. You can watch the videos, you can see the pictures. If you have any questions, now you can ask now. We don't have to wait till after 5 days and then start that debate of like, well, the standard's only 3, so I only want to pay, you're trying to pay for 5, and that whole thing. We can have that talk on day 1 or day 2 already, showing the progression, or if it's not progressing, and like what changes need to be made, So having the S500 standards built into the software helps a ton, because then it tells the technicians what's recommended for equipment, what you need to do. So none of that's all normal. The difference is that we're sharing that data live with all parties involved that want to be involved. So that's the key. So then you're seeing people get paid. We've had clients call us. I mean, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it, because it's what it's supposed to do. Like we've had a client do a 16-day tryout on a Walmart. I won't mention who it is, but they were sending out their daily snapshot reports out of clean claims every day to all parties involved, from the property owner, the manager, the adjuster. At the end of 16 days, they got paid out $1.8 million in 4 days of completing the job, because there was nothing to debate. There was nothing to argue. Everybody knew why it was taking 16 days. They knew what equipment was there. They saw the psychrometric readings every day. That's the biggest difference. So it's not rocket science. We're trying to simplify it. Everybody thinks they have this grand, huge idea and make it all complicated. Our process is like, the simpler you can make it for the field technicians, they're the ones collecting the most critical data. So when you throw in our data collection and then Magic Plan scanning tool of instant sketch, I mean, it just makes it to where it's just, in my opinion, a flawless system. You can't debate facts and real-time data, So that, what I would say, be the biggest thing that really trickles down to your question of asking is, how do adjusters debate, or why does that make it better? Is it's just transparency. It is what it is, live in the moment. And I don't know how you debate that. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just, because that's the problem, is they show up and they're like, okay, it's already been demoed and trashed, and that's why the questions start. But like, if they're involved in that process from the beginning, then there is no arguing or fighting. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Here's where we are and what we're doing, and it allows you to hey, this hardwood floor is super wet. We're going on 2 days of an injected dry floor system. It's not drying. And then the adjusters are part of that conversation saying, cool, let's give it a few more days. If we can save, $8,000 of ripping out that hardwood floor, then we should do that. Now it's collaborative. It's not fighting. It's like we're working together now. So that's the key.
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of the other ways that we've kind of merged into digital is it's just a way to gather the information. You're still essentially presenting it in that more static format at post project, right? So formatting is a lot cleaner and more pro looking than hand scratch notes, but
Right.
you're providing a product that you could ultimately manipulate any way you want. It's just cleaner, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
Guys, what I think might be useful is to draw some contrast or comparisons between some of the other solutions on the market, because I think while everything you guys are saying makes perfect sense in terms of the transparency and the speed at which you guys render this information and provide it out and share it out, the transparency piece, I think there is an element with so many competing software solutions in the market that to your typical restorer, they're like, God, I feel like I've heard this before. It feels like everybody is kind of saying the same thing to one degree or another. I think of even, I forget who I was talking to the other day. They were talking about how you can share inside certain job management software. You can create a public link, for an adjuster, an insurance agent, referral partner, a client, to where they can track with the real-time updates of notes in the system and so forth. And I'm like, well, yeah, that we utilized that in Dash, 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah, so I think people can get lost in the noise of the market. So could you guys take a moment and contrast between, say, like DocuSketch and Encircle or Matterport and some of these other types of solutions that are out there that restorers may already be using or have heard about with the integration with the platform that you guys have put together?
I'm going to start with a quick one. I had one of my project managers and we basically interviewed him, what do you like best? And he was like, okay, now I can produce drawings that feel as if they were to come out of an architect's office. And he was really proud of himself that like he is producing field notes or whatnot that typically would require a trained architect to produce those. And that really, it's in the hand of the user and they are like in control of their result and they are proud of it. That is what triggers me most of the time. It's like their product, they like it. And that's what gets the adoption. That's what gets everything. And once you get to that point, they actually want to do it. They want to produce more of their great work. And I think it's similar to what Lane is doing, and we are trying to combine those two, right? It's really a feeling of the people in the field that kind of carries us forward. And I think, to be honest, that's the difference, right? To some of the other solutions, it's a little bit different, and that's what I've observed, and that's what is the feedback, and that what I also like, right? I want to enable and empower the people that are doing the work, and that's the feedback that I get, and that is what I think then really tips the scale.
I feel like to a certain extent, like once they establish their own what's in it for them, if it's a high enough return, at least from their perspective, and it engages consistent use or even drives like a accelerated use, like that's pretty awesome outcome. So regardless of what the execution looks like, I think anytime you get a user, one of our staff, that's excited to use an end product, then I think we got to be pretty motivated by that as well, just because adoption seems to be our biggest issue with any of the tech or any of the solutions that tend to come to the market. Is just, golly, driving use at all just seems to be a nightmare, it feels like, most of the time.
So can you dig into that just a little bit more, though? Like objectively, when a technician is performing the scan, Magic Plan versus, say, what they might see or what might the end result be at the end of that scan between, say, DocuSketch or a Matterport scan, and what the technician is experiencing in terms of user interface, like what is, articulate kind of the difference that they experience and why they'd be excited about that as producing an architectural drawing versus what they're going to see or produce on site with, say, DocuSketch.
Yeah. One of the differences really, again, is this instantaneous element, right? They are producing it, they are doing it, right? And if there is a odd corner, something off, right? We give you the opportunity to kind of like sketch on your tablet by hand. We give you the opportunity to connect a Bluetooth laser. That is kind of like the highest level of detail that you can get. And it's their product, it's their work, right? What they produce. And that gives them the whole perception of creating value. I think that is different. With some of the other solutions, you are supposed to do a certain procedure, and then in the end, after some time back, you get sent something that might or might not be how you recall it, and it's not. You can't edit it, you can't do it. It's not. It kind of like escapes your personal workflow, and I think this is really where the difference is. Like, I am out there, I know what the site looks like, I know what I would like to produce to actually complete the job to its fullest, and you have that possibility at hand. That is really for the users the difference that I observe. Because in the end, I mean, we can't debate about, okay, in the end there is a floor plan, right? But how do you get to that result, and what does it take, and what does it how qualified you get there? That is the difference.
Because most of these other products, you're basically doing the scan, and then you're waiting for some rendering to be available after a few hours or a day or whatever the platform is. Okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
Lam, why don't you hammer on that? Because obviously the translation is kind of where the rubber hits the road. It's like, we've done this scan, now what are we doing with it, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll say from my perspective as a contractor, it's what you were bringing up earlier, Brand. It's one less item that they have to carry and lose. People live on their phones. You're not gonna. I don't know anybody, like, sure, in the house you'll forget to place it somewhere. I don't know anybody that can't live without their smartphone, right? Everything is run on that, right? So it's just one item that's always in your pocket that can't be lost. That can't, you know what I mean? It's again the ease of use. It's one less thing you got to carry around and break. Like, I mean, I've had stuff lost and broke, and it's hard to account for tens of thousands of dollars being lost when you can just have it on your phone. So again, I always look at it just back to simplicity, right? Just, it's all on here. It's all on the phone. You know, I don't have to have another thing I got to carry around. So that's one simple thing, you know, just coming back to the difference. Cost, you guys know, like I do, it's always the cost. The cost is significantly less, right? Like, all the products are amazing, don't get me wrong. It's significantly like less, right? And that's a thing, because people, every question you guys have probably seen and heard on this podcast is always like, well, it's immediately, what does this cost? Like, that sounds awesome, but what's the cost, you know? And so that's a key element, you know, like in clean claims, you can buy as you go. You don't lose your credits. You're like, if you buy a job, it's there till you use it. You don't lose it. Where I know our competitors, you got a monthly subscription to where you just have to buy it. So it works great for the new guy coming in doing 2 jobs a month. And then we have companies that are doing $500 million a year. So it again, all just comes back to ease of use, you know, and getting the instant sketch is, for me, what triggers it as a restorer is that kind of like the point you guys were bringing back is I don't have to go back the next day. I don't have to pay another guy. I knew when I sent out a crew, it was $325 every time we went on a trip. That was fuel cost there, back, and the time on site, right? If I can avoid those days, the efficiency goes through the roof, and I can track that efficiency. Like, we increase our efficiency by 30% in our company overnight, just eliminating the extra wasted trips. I mean, that's a huge deal. When you have a 3-day dry out and it's $325 a day, that's an extra almost $1,000 of just labor and fuel, right? And if I can cut all that out, then, I mean, do the math. Like, if you're doing 1 job a day, 365, and you just save like $300 on every job, that's 110 grand a year. Do the math. It's like, it is not hard to grow and get more efficient. Like, we increased our margins by 30%, and I didn't go get one new client. I didn't get one. We netted 30% better of just being more efficient and eliminating oh, I forgot to do this and I forgot to do that. We got to go back out. We got to argue and all the wasted time in the office. It's eliminating all of that. You know, talking with insurance carriers, they have the same problem we have as restorers. You can't find people to work in the field today. You know, it's really hard to find good labor.
Yeah.
And so they have the same problem with adjusters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the ones they do hire have 3 days of, you know, of experience. And here's a checklist of what you need to tell the restorer what they can or can't do. We can automate it. You know, big carriers we're talking to is like, we're talking about anything under 10 grand, because in clean claims with the process enforcement driven, if you turn in that job, it's either done or it's not, right? So if it's done, then checks can go out. Like, why wait? Like if they're within the standard and doing it, it's that efficiency, right? On both sides. I know that's cheesy, but it's a win-win. The contractor makes more because they're being more efficient, and then the carriers love it because now they're avoiding fraud. But the big thing is we eliminate the 3-day dry out BS. Like we can prove that if it went further, it's irrefutable data in our system. So, I mean, that would be the biggest things is price, ease of use, and that transparency is what our competitors cannot touch what we're doing.
I kind of want to hang in that pocket. You know, we're friends with Rachel Stewart, right? Runs Accelerate, owns Accelerate. You know, what's interesting is she's a, you know, past restorer, GM, very effective company, was really forward thinking, very commercial heavy, just a great operator. And, you know, one of the things that she's discussed and talked about, and again, the companies she was a part of and her culture now, like they prioritize culture. Like they're not turning people over just cause. And though she just kind of spoke to the reality that our frontline tech staff, like when you walk into an organization, they have tenured staff that have been techs or leads or PMs for extended periods of time. We all recognize that and we all kind of tip our hat to it because it's hard. It's hard to do it. Reality of it is our frontline staff's going to turn over, especially in our industry. Yeah. So even if you're prioritizing great culture development, employee stickiness, we're going to have people coming and going. And, you know, one of the things she just hyper focused on was you've got to build a routine where within 30 to 45 days, you have someone that can be competent enough to begin creating some value in the field. Like, obviously, they're just getting started, but we've got to cross that threshold where the only thing they can do is grab some gear out of the truck, right? And yeah. So, I just kind of want to hang in that pocket with you guys a little bit because I feel like you've made this comment now. I can train people in 2 days. So give me a real, like, let's have a reality check on that. Don't give me the software spin, but give me what that means and why is it that you can effectively say, you know how to onboard somebody into that responsibility in such a short period of time. And if you can for me, Lane, especially is please try to like separate the difference between what are they learning and they're able to do versus the stuff that the simplicity of the software is not addressing. Just because I want it to be really clear, because we kind of get caught up in the, well, you do this and your whole experience and relationship with your tech will be easy. That's not true either, right? So just give us the reality check on that. What's that meaning?
So here's my thing, right? Like, so when I had my 4 restoration companies, it was a constant training on trying to get people to do things. Every Wednesday meeting for 6 years was just begging it was the most unproductive, worthless meeting. I think I kind of told you guys this story, and I tell this a lot, but it's true. It's every meeting was, where's your pictures? Where's readings? Why don't you document? Why are we going back out? Why are we going to get paid? Like it never ended. Every Wednesday, I guaranteed that was my conversation with my team, whether it was my admin team or my techs in the field, right? That's the problem. So in clean claims, and I'm not trying to like sales, the difference is that me as an owner of a company, I dictate and control on a residential water or a commercial fire. This is what I want. And I check off what I want. So that becomes to where when the techs show up, they don't have any control over what they can or can't do. So me as the owner, I set that these are the patterns I want, and this is the order it goes through, and I can't move on to the next step. That's the only way I could figure out how to create that consistency. And any other program that you go into, all those options are there that we have as well. But you can do it whenever you want, and there's no like fluidity to get that consistency. So that was the key and the biggest difference is, and really what, you know, I told people this story. State Farm is the one that led me down this path to sell my restoration companies and do this, because I got a call, this was 5 years ago, and from one of their executives, and it was, all they asked me is why is it from your company, whether in Utah, Colorado, or Nevada, we get perfect documentation for you guys all the time? So I had 47 employees when I sold my company, right? How do I get 47 restores that are all thinking different? And one came from this company, one came from that company, and they have this opinion. That's the problem, is that it's always that, right? And that's what you're always fighting as a staff. You can have a great culture, but your guys are still gonna, and it's not that all guys are bad. I'm making it sound like it's bad. I'm guilty of it. When I'm on call by myself and 10 calls come in, you bet your butt that I'm going to forget to do things, right? The whole point of this is that you don't forget. It makes you spend the extra 5 minutes to take the picture of the structure, to take the outdoor reading. Like, you have to do it, right? So that's the key of doing that, is that it's not leaving it up to the technician to decide and then you have to micromanage them. You decide, you pick the requirements in that flow, and they don't have a choice. They have to just go through and do it, right? So that's the real key. Is that kind of answering your question? I hope. I'm kind of, I mean, it's really like I had a 30-year veteran that worked for me, just cancer to my culture, just destroyed my culture. He knew better than me. He knew better than everybody. Everything I said, he would say against it. Like, it was hell. But like, those restores, I think, can relate. Like, I kept him because it was like, well, he knows what he's doing, but like, oh my gosh, but it was a nightmare, right? So when I finally had a really good reason to fire him, and that's a whole other story, holy cow. But when I did, I literally hired a kid that I met at a drive-through through Taco Bell. I literally just thought he had a good attitude. And I was like, dude, I'll hire you and pay you more. Hired him. I spent 30 minutes with him in our flood house, showing him that process that I'm telling you that we've built, right? And in 30 minutes, he did the whole thing perfect. No joke. I sent him out the next thing. You can ask our clients that this is not a try to BS people to buying our product. This is just the thing I love about my product, is it is what it is. Don't take my word for it. I'll give you 5 jobs for free and you go try it. And if it doesn't work, then don't use it. That's what I tell everybody, right?
Yeah.
But that kid went out the next day and did a whole entire residential loss. It was like a 4-bedroom loss, but he did it perfect. And he had 30 minutes of training and has no idea what restoration is. Now, you still should, I strongly love like the IRCRC and the certifications. You need to understand what's happening. But think of how amazing it is in a temp, like when you hire on 10 temp labor, right?
Yeah.
So my brother owns a restoration company in St. George, and he called me and he's like, I just hired 12 guys to do content manipulation. I spent 5 minutes with them training and showing them, because the reason why it's easy to train is if you're not sure what to do, hit next or save, and it highlights in red what they have to do. And until they do it, they can't move on. So it's not rocket science and overthinking. It's just, here's the tasks. You don't have any choice. And now if you're not sure, just hit next. It'll tell you what you're missing, and then you can move on. So that, what I would say, be really what it comes down to is just, it all comes back to just take the thinking away, make it simple, and just a clear path to this is how we do it. And that trickles down. The most critical data is being collected by the restorer in the field. And if it's hard and complicated for them and they don't know how to do it and understand it, you're consistently, this is the normal. You guys talk to probably more restorers than I do. It is the never ending, he said, she said battle of, and then the arguing of making your technicians do it. We're limited. You don't have to deal with that anymore. Like, literally. And don't take my word for it. Just try it. Everybody's tried everything out there. And it's always funny when I come into a class, I'm always like, I have to be like, I'm not another software. This is not an add-on. I promise. Like, let me just establish that. Right. So that's anyway, sorry, going off on a tangent, but yeah.
Well, I think what you touched on, and this is truth that I think some of us get a little callous to, is that normally it's not malicious intent. Like, normally we don't have people that are just, they're rolling their eyes and saying, oh gosh, I got to do X, Y, Z. Does that happen? It does, but it's a rare. It's literally people doing the best they can most of the time. And either we normally fail to give them any kind of adequate training, or there's just a reality that when you're new to an industry, taking on a lot of information, and it is hard to retain it all and be executing flawlessly within a really short period of time. Like, it's difficult, right? And I think what you're talking about is creating a solution or a tool for our end user that eliminates the guesswork. Like, we're just helping them be more confident in the steps that they have to take. Yeah. But I also did hear that it doesn't teach you how to dry good. It just teaches you what administrative processes to go through, right? Or what steps to take. So we still got to equip our people on how to do mitigation, if you will.
Big time.
All those other pieces that this makes a lot easier.
Yeah, it's what this reminds me of. We talk a lot with restorers about creating grooves in their business. Kind of like when you get on the freeway right? Or the Autobahn, Andreas, where it's like you have sections of road where the grooves are well worn, and it's like you get on the on ramp and you kind of almost slide into the groove, and you have to work hard to get out of it, right? And there's so much value in creating those in our business where new people can just onboard and just like get in the groove. We have this established method, and so it sounds like your guys' platform in many ways is like you as a company, hey, this is the highway we all drive on. And when people get into that groove, we also talk about keeping it simple, like making it simple and easy to do the right thing, right? In all of our systems and processes. And that's what it sounds like is you guys are having people get into a highway where it's like, okay, the only option is this next thing, right? And then after you do that next thing, then there's a next thing. And then there's a next. There is no room for people to sort of pick and choose what they're going to do when they arrive on the job site.
Yeah,
I mean, is that
forget or remember, basically?
And it makes so much sense to me because, like you say, and I think to Brandon's point, where I think in general, people want to do the right thing, but they get so many pieces of conflicting data because you've got this guy, Billy, who's been in the industry forever, and he has his own way of doing things or approaching a job. And you got Sally over here that came from another big company, and she knows what she's doing. And everybody's kind of right, but they're all doing it differently. Whereas it sounds like your guys' platform forces people to, okay, you start by doing this thing, then you do the next thing, then you do the next thing. And there's a groove that it presents to them where they can just stay in the groove and they're going to produce a really positive outcome. And they don't have to stress about how or what next or anything else. It's just, hey, this is the next thing, and then the next thing, the next thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Just essentially just walking text how they need to do. If you're an admin or a project manager or something, you can make changes on the fly if needed, but it's just set that exactly what you're saying, just that path of like, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. The simplest way to do it, right? So that it's just, so that's what's nice is you can have all these different ideas, but it's just like, hey, just do it, just go through and do it. So you're all accomplishing the same goal.
Yeah.
Andreas, like with your guys' piece on Magic Plan, one of the things I just thought was so interesting, and you guys have both referenced this, just literally your phone. LiDAR versus non-LiDAR. Talk to us about that, just so I think from an end user perspective, we understand what kind of toolkit needs to be deployed to get the best result.
Yeah, I mean, LiDAR combines a Bluetooth laser distance meter like with your camera. So this is super powerful. And that obviously makes the process even simpler. However, you don't necessarily need to be LiDAR equipped, whereas like if possible, we definitely recommend this. And then in terms of ease of use, I mean, I like to reference, we have, I think, more than 150,000 reviews in the App Store, right? We are focusing on the restoration industry, but we are out there. Like you can download us as a private individual and play around if you move home or whatnot. And that ease of use kind of that gets validated day after day. That is what we try to hold ourselves accountable and make that possible to everyone. I mean, I was at a trade fair and there was a kind of bored kid, 7 years old, and he asked me to pick up my iPad that I had, and he did it, right? And that is that is what we try to focus on and what we try to enable to really make it accessible. And it's accessible if you have it on your phone, you have it always with you. And it's easy for everyone. Also, one story that I just like so much, we had one comment of like a couple in their 70s, and they said, hey, thank you so much. Because we had the plan, we could actually talk to our contractor and visualize what we wanted, right? That is this renovation side that we have. But that really is the moment when I say, okay, it's all right, right? It's accessible enough for everyone to use it. You don't need hours of training. You don't need to study architecture. You don't need to be trained in crazy equipment. You can just do it. And that is, what I think is great about it and what we consistently try to stress over and over again.
That's so funny. Literally from 7 to 70. you can
From 7 to
you
70,
can
yeah.
use it, right?
Now that you say it.
I think it's kind of funny because just so you know, you guys have both kind of mentioned like the older dogs, right? We'll have that guy or gal on our team. They've been around, they're a seasoned veteran, they know how to do the job. But many of us too, like we're deferring our commitment to technology, right? There's a few on the team still that haven't quite grasped that conversion. So I think knowing 7 to 70 is a good number. I think we can fit just about anybody in our roster into that toolkit. So that's solid.
It's a small window. It's fine.
Yeah. If you fall outside of that, you probably shouldn't be in the restoration.
Yeah,
I think we're
yeah.
okay. That's really rad. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, like, you know, Chris and I have talked about both these solutions a lot, and Lane, you know, us getting a chance to kind of see it firsthand, both your guys's platforms working in conjunction with each other at the LLM piece there at Thomas's Large Loss Mastery event. It was like instant kind of, I fell in love because I was like, anything that we can do to make it easier to do the right thing is always going to be mandatory. And I love the model. And again, you know, we're really talking about Magic Plan is in and of itself a really powerful tool, but when it's embedded in this platform, it's magic. But I think it's this idea, like you said, Lane, try it. Like you get 5 claims for free. You're a per claim fee structure is how Clean Claim works. It's silly to not try it. Like just try it. If you don't like it, great. It's not going to hurt my feelings. It might hurt Lane's, but you'll never know because he's not going to tell you about it. But it's worth trying. Like we've just seen the system play out so far, and I am really impressed. I love the training wheels. I love the idea that we can just place some parameters on the process to prevent us from using that energy up, just trying to determine what next step to take versus being focused on the client. And that's something that we didn't talk about much, but you know, our people, you know, Chris and I really hammer on, it's how we make them feel in the process. But when our people are struggling because all their energy is going to remembering this, do this, take this action, put this file in, send this thing out before you leave, we actually place them in a position where they can't focus their effort and their energy on the customer relationship. They're doing mitigation, yes, but they're not prioritizing how we make them feel in the process. And that's just one of the things I feel like when you can begin to remove the need for energy to go to those places of just, no, I know what to do. It's like breathing. I do those parts. I do them like second nature, and I focus all my attention on what my client's experiencing. Dude, we start crushing. That has nothing to do with profit margin. That's top line. That's next opportunity. You put those two things together, you're making more money and you're creating more opportunities. I just don't see very many reasons for people to ignore that. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe top line and bottom line is not an important thing for our business.
Well, I'd say the hard thing too, right, is like for us, and I'm not trying to make this, it is like a sales pitch, I guess, a little bit, but what's huge is like, you've got to be in with the right networks, right? That's the key, is like, if you're not accepted, it doesn't happen. So we, being a newer product, like I've been showing the product for 2 years about, but we've only been selling it 7, 8 months technically, right? But we just signed our agreement with Contractor Connection. We're working with Alacrity. We have a bi-directional integration that we are beta testing right now through Exact Analysis. So we built it to where carriers can push data into Exact Analysis, and that's now pushing into Clean Claims and vice versa. So it's, again, it's not just eliminating that, you know, in CRMs, we have integrations where it's all built to, it pushes that data over automatically. So again, if I can't integrate with companies to where it's a true integration to where I'm eliminating that, then I'm not interested in integrating, because everybody's selling that we integrate. And then it's like, well, you got to log in and out and you got to copy and paste this and that. And it's like, to me, I can't, I'm not going to buy that, because I dealt with that my whole career. It's like, unless it's talking back and forth and I don't have to go in and out and have my teams logging in, logging out, that to me is not an integration. Sorry. So that's huge. Like CoreLogic, Scott Severe let me tell people that they're integrating into our remote monitoring and all that. Like, so what's huge is getting that acceptance and how fast we've been able to. If that doesn't tell you just use the product and find out for yourself, I don't know what is. It's like, don't take my word for it. Try it. That's what's been amazing, is getting these big companies. Like, we've got pilot programs with insurance companies in different countries that are using it right now. You know what I mean? So it's just, it is what it is, you know, and those integrations are huge. So I'd say that'd be the key thing that maybe stop people in the beginning. But now that like we're in with all these big contractors and insurance carriers accepting it, it makes it so much easier for clients to just stick into one system, and that integration, everybody's got to have Xactimate or Symbility or whatever. Those integrations are critical because now we're pushing that data back and forth and eliminating that double, triple entry, right? So that's what I would say is what we're very excited as a company, our trajectory, like we're moving at a great pace just because of those. If it wasn't for those integrations with like what we're doing with Andreas and exact analysis and everything, it's not going to keep going. It's like, oh, it's cool, but it doesn't work with our system. It's now going to where we're very excited that we are now being accepted by a lot of different big, players and companies. So
it's pretty cool. I think at the end of the day, it warrants people taking some time, give it a test run. Obviously, you can try Magic Plan separately outside of Clean Claims in and of itself. Super powerful tool, super powerful sketching and documenting tool. The two of you guys together is really silly. I just think it's super powerful. So let's do this. Andreas, just give us where people are going to go if they wanted to try Magic Plan separately from the Clean Claims process. Maybe they're already using something else and they're wanting to test out your guys' sketching tool. Where are we going? And then Lane, I'll have you do the same thing.
Well, go to your phone, open the App Store, download and try. And then if you're happy, reach out to one of our team members. We give you opportunities to do so. So just open the App Store in your phone, type in Magic Plan, you're good.
Nice. Lane.
Ours currently, you just go to cleanclaims.com. So today, actually, as we speak, we have 15 clients we're onboarding right now with Magic Plan and Clean Claims. So our native app will be in the apps. It's in the beta app store right now. Our native app will be in the app store in about 2 to 3 weeks, if I remember correctly. So maybe sooner, but yeah, just cleanclaims.com is the easiest place to go. You can do it all from right there. And then it will be in the app store here soon.
Nice. Okay. So Magic Plan, you can test for free, correct, Andreas?
Yes. Yeah. Test for free. We give you, I think, 2 free plans. But I'm following through on Lane's offer. If you want to test it, 5 projects all time, give it a try. I always typically say do 3 plans: 1 in your hotel room, 1 in your office, 1 in your home, and then you're done. In terms of onboarding and training, give it a try. Tell us what you think.
Love it. Yeah, nothing to lose here. 0 risk on our part to give it a test run. And I would advise everybody to give them both a real hard wrap and put it through the paces and see what you end up with. I think one of the fun experiment on Clean Claims would be literally put it in somebody's hands in your company that's never even seen a loss and have them go out with an experienced tech. Keep your mouth closed and let this individual walk through the paces and see how bad they do for a first try with little training and input. And I think that'll give you a real strong understanding of, wow, okay, well, maybe if we took 10, 15 intentional minutes, we would reshape this experience. I think you'll actually be really pleasantly surprised.
It's super fun to see for sure. I do it live on demos. I'll pick somebody from the audience that wants to volunteer. I'll plug my phone in and I'll say, cool, just start going through it. And I'm not going to say anything. And like, if you have a question, just let me know. I'll do it live. And it's the funnest thing to see on job sites and that. So yeah, I recommend the same. It's fun to see it happen.
Super cool. Well, thanks guys. We really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us. Obviously both of you have huge things in front of you right now. We'll continue to keep our eye on you and rubbing elbows at events. We got a few coming up. I'm assuming that both of you will have a team present and walking around. So we'll hopefully get some FaceTime with both of you at the next event.
Heck yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. All right, boys.
Thank you for your time today.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
See you later.